Back in the Range Rover. I've got a problem which I knew was going to come back, and I got the answer hopefully in my pocket here. It's the old air suspension. I did a little series on it. Have a look at the videos just below. The air suspension light came on and I tried all sorts of things to fix it, and I managed to work it out in the end. But I even stripped down the air compressor in the back. I changed the seal on it, and so there's a video if you're interested. But what I did, I kind of manipulated something, and it's been working for 18 months, but it's now kind of finally given up the ghost. So today's job is stick this little bad boy on the steering. It's a steering angle sensor made by BMW. The whole car is pretty much made by BMW, with the exception of the stupid gearbox down there, which is made by General Motors. No offense to the Americans, but it's rubbish, and it's actually cost me £3,500 to get that thing rebuilt. But the rest of the car, engine and everything, pretty much BMW. And if you look very closely, there's actually a BMW sticker on this steering angle sensor. Right, so to get to the steering angle sensor, what you got to do, underneath there's 4 bolts on the underside of the dashboard. I'm going to have to get to those. I've done this before, and like I've always said, if you've done it once, you got that learning curve out of the way. So fingers crossed you know what you're doing. You can then get in there with the right tools, with the right angles, and it shouldn't be too difficult. So I'm going to get that off. Now what I've done in the past, the steering angle sensor is coded to the car, and half of it has got the electronics in it. There'll be little microchip in there of some sort, which will work with the ECU and everything, telling the steering angle where it is. And just to let you know, for some reason the steering angle sensor shuts down the air suspension. That's something that I learnt in the time that I've had this car. So what I've done on the steering angle sensor 18 months ago is I took off the back, and there's these tiny little combs. They're very, very fine bits of metal, and they wear away. So as this thing is turning with the steering wheel, the comb, like a record player and a needle, is touching the metal, and they basically just worn away. So there's a gap on occasion, and I've noticed it especially when it gets kind of cold or warm, when there's a difference in temperature. So enough talk, I'm going to strip it down. I'm going to take the good sensors off this used one and put it on the electronics of the base of the existing one for my car, so that they two will marry up. Fingers crossed, hopefully my air suspension light will disappear. Normally you can reset it by doing it all the way to the right, all the way to the left steering angle sensor, but it's not doing it now. I'll show you what I mean. Let's put the key in and see if I can do it. I've got air suspension and HDC inactive. Now, normally, if I turn the steering wheel all the way to the right and left, it calibrates the steering angle sensor. So if I try that, see if any lights go out on the dash. And no, it's not doing it now. No. All right, well, let's get that sensor changed. Fingers crossed it shouldn't be as bad as it was before 18 months ago. That's me, typical from saying that. I'm going to jinx it now. This is my setup. On my back, upside down, just how I like it. So move the seat of the driver's side right back. Okay, so what we're needing to do is remove this side panel. There's a fixing at the back, and then this just pushes off that way. Then underneath here, we'll just remove that underside there as well. I like to use a little handheld drill. It's just low powered, but it just makes it a lot more easy when you're working sort of upside down and in close proximity to stuff. And this just pulls down and pushes off that way. Easy as that. There's 2 fixings. They're on the side here. Just kind of feel your way to get to them. There's one. There's the other one. And at the back here, just a little plastic screw that you turn, that undoes. And this panel will come down. And just disconnect the lights so you can get in there. And with this one you can just kind of, this is the old plug for the OBD, I think. You can just sort of pop the whole thing out that way and just keep these plugs at the back. They can be quite difficult to pull those out. So that's the under tray removed. So, show you where the steering angle sensor is. Here's the steering angle, just here. So we need to disconnect this plug, and then once that's disconnected, we're going to undo that nylock there, and I also need to undo the following screws. This one, this one, this one, and there's one on the other side as well. Once I've undone those 4 screws, I then need to pull the whole steering rack that way towards the back of the car. So let's get this off and see how we go. Okay, so what I've done is I've just turned the key on and I've rotated the steering wheel so that the nut here is facing at this angle. This allows me to get a decent extension on, and I can now undo that nut. It was quite stiff. What I've managed to do is get a socket on the other side to stop the nut and stop the bolt from spinning. And there's the nut off. Of course, if you subscribe and give me the thumbs up and all that good stuff as well. I'm only a one-man band, so it really does help. It takes a lot of effort to do these videos, so I very much appreciate it. Okay, now that I've got that pinch bolt removed, I need to undo these screws here, these bolts here. They're 13mm again. Don't need to loosen, take them all off, just loosen them. There's another 2 at the back. Bit hard to see, but you can get to them. So I'm going to undo this. This is 3 screws on the bottom, and you'll be able to then remove the top and bottom of this cowling. So there's 3 screws. There's one that's slightly smaller, but it uses the same star head, and there's a slightly longer black one. What I want to do is move the steering wheel, try and get as much access as possible. Move that down. So I'm hoping now that I can access in here to get to those other 2 13mm bolts. You can see there's one there, just about the other one on the other side. I'll try and get this flexible socket on. Should just about reach. Yeah. There you go. Right, there's one. Let's see if we can get the other one. That's the trickiest one. Okay, that's it all loose. Right. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is remove these bolts. If I can reach my hand up in there, I need to remove them completely. So I've removed the last bolts. There's 4 of these. Now I'm going to pull the steering wheel this direction towards the back of the car to separate that joint. Okay, looks like it's separated. So we need to remember which way that goes in. And now, hopefully I can just remove this. Aha! And there's your steering angle sensor. Oh, one steering angle sensor. Ta-da! Right, I got them. Okay, number one thing you need to do is make sure you mark which is old and which is new. Okay, good one. So make sure you do both sides as well, because I'm going to split this. I've never done it before. So my thought process is that, as I mentioned, half of the side has got the electronics, the other half has got those little brushes. Think of it like a needle on a record, and they've worn out. So I'm going to take the brushes off the good one, which is here, put it on the old one, keeping the electronic base. Do you think it'll work? It's a good chance. Might as well. I bought this used. I've checked the part numbers. They look to be exactly the same. It's a B&W part. As I mentioned, the car is B&W anyway. And it is, glasses, it is 37146760232, and it's the same on that. I've checked it. So in order to get these off, you have to use those really small little Torx, the sort of thing you get with a mobile phone kit if you ever replaced a case or a screen. Something like this, you know, the sort of thing. And make sure you don't chew up the screws, because you've only got one shot at it. They're in there pretty tight as well. So here's my old one. Let's take these screws off. As I said, I've opened this up before, so hopefully the screws will come off quite easy. Just make sure you push down hard and you don't chew up the ends of the screws. You want it to be quite sealed in here because it's quite delicate. You'll see what I mean when I open this up. There's little tiny little brushes. There you go, I can see the problem straight away. So let's move this over here. So this is the electronics base, and here, just like a record, as I said, this spins round, and you can see the surface here has got these little marks. Now these marks here, there's actually a grease on there, but it's kind of gone dry, but it picks up the brushes, and the brushes are here. These are the brushes here. And look, you can see that that one there has worn completely away. In fact, there's next to nothing on the way. There's next to nothing left. It should look like this one. But look how much it's worn. Obviously the outside one seems to get more abuse than the inside. This bit is what I'm hoping to take out my used one and then pop it into this. Simple as. There's nothing else really worn out in here. I take this off just to have a look behind it and see, give you an idea. You can see just behind there, look, there's the electronics. And that's there's a chip inside, which is coded to the car. So I'm going to leave this bit alone. Right, so as I said, that's why I put old on the back. So this is the one I want to keep. This is the old one, which has the brushes. In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this case maybe and just put it back onto that, but with the internal bit. Right, let's get the new one off. I've already undone these before just to check it when I bought it. You can see the condition of that compared to my old one. This actually looks a lot better. As I said, I can't use this because the electronics at the back are different. So this is the new one. Put that aside. Right, now this is the important bit here. If you have a look, here you go. If you have a look at that brush there, you can see just how much better that one is. It's not worn out at all. They're the same length. And these are the other two as well. They both look really good. So that's good. Happy days. Here's the old one in comparison. You can see, look, just how much that's worn out there. Okay, so let's get rid of that. And I could just put the whole thing on in this case, or I could use the existing case. Doesn't really matter. I think I'll use the existing case. So here's the new one. Put that in there. Looking good. Just get this a little clean. See, it's a bit dirty there. It's actually got a very fine grease on here. Okay. And this one, let's have a look. Yeah, this one looks pretty clean. Right, anyway, just double make sure. Right, that's the old one with the short bit there, so let's get that out of the way. This is a new one. And let's pop it back in. That all looks good. Put the screws in. Right, she is done. She is done. Okay, let's put it back on the car. I've got the sensor back on. I haven't put the steering wheel back up. Obviously you can see it's just hanging here. I've got to put the 4 bolts in, but I thought let's just see if it works before I put it all back together again. So yeah, I'm hoping that I'm gonna have to do the steering wheel reset, and then that will take the thing off the dash. So let's put the key in and let's, fingers crossed, see what happens. Right, still got the faults on the dash. HDC inactive, air suspension inactive. Right, so let's start the car, and hopefully, fingers crossed, let's see if I can clear this now with the new brushes that I put on that steering angle sensor. So all the way to the right, all the way to the left. Are they going to go? No, it's not. It's getting a little dark, but I think I'm getting somewhere. It didn't clear when I did the steering wheel reset, as you saw. So I got my my maxi-com out, and I went into the special functions on the steering angle sensor. So the steering angle sensor, the ABS and the air suspension all seem to be kind of talking to one another. So I had to recalibrate and you can do that with the maxi-com, by the way. So recalibrated the steering angle sensor, and what it says here is make sure that the steering wheel is as straight as possible. And then as it did it, air suspension went up and down, and guess what? All my lights are off the dash. Have a look at this. So it says here, the steering angle has been calibrated and the steering angle sensor ECU initialized. The diagnostic tester will now clear any faults that may have been stored in the ABS ECU during the calibration process. So I've done that. So let's just press OK, establishing vehicle connection. Traction control and ABS ECU or DTCs have been cleared successfully. So amazingly my plan works. I did doubt myself a little moment there when I put it all back on. I thought, oh, this is never going to work now. What have I done? I've got to take the whole thing down again. But thankfully she's all working. So importantly, let's check the air suspension. I'm on a bit of a hill. You should see the little flashy lights down the bottom there. And there she goes. She's going up. And I can feel it's going up. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. We are in the up position. Let's go down. So look, I hope this has helped you. I hope it's your sort of thing. I've done loads of stuff on Range Rovers. Range Rover Sport, the L320 and the L322, which is the one I'm in today. I've been meaning to do this job for 18 months and finally I've got it done. The part only cost me about £20 on eBay, but I had to get a used part because I knew that if I bought a new one, it'd be wasting money because I only needed those little brushes that you saw wore away. If you're kind enough to get to the end of the video, thank you. And of course, if you subscribe and give me the thumbs up and all that good stuff as well. I'm only a one-man band, so it really does help. It takes a lot of effort to do these videos, so I very much appreciate it. See you on the next one. Woo! Let's move on, 'cause it's time to move on. Sometimes